The following is intended only for mature audience. Viewer and listener discretion is advised. This evening's show may contain foul language and content. Please be aware before listening further.
Hey folks, P. Basardo here, and you're listening to the Smoke Free Radio Network.
That was interesting.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Vaping and the Mic. It is going to be one of those evenings where we can consider this one of three things: an opinion piece, continuing education, or flat out, we're going to all be upset about something. And either way that it goes, tonight, it's one of those nights, that's fine. As long as everybody that is going to be involved can keep things civil and try to keep our foul language to a moderate degree, I'm okay with that. Because I know there's going to be things that are going to be slipping right out of my mouth. The phone lines are open for people if they want to call in this evening. It is 215-383-5752. When you hear the lady come on, press 1. It'll put you in the queue on the laptop over here, and then I'll be able to port that right into the show. So, again, if you can, give us a call, because I think that you're going to find this evening is going to be interesting on multiple levels. I know that I've been looking forward to it for quite a while. As soon as I get one more thing done here, I'm going to introduce this evening's guest. And I apologize, I'm still working on this whole hi, how are you thing with running Restream, and I want to make sure that I get all of the... Again, if you can, that stuff taken care of. Here, I'm going to switch over to one other part, which will allow me to turn around. If you would, this evening's guest is the president of the Good God. Go for it.
New England Vapor Technology Association.
Thank you. I just drew a blank. I'm like, son of a bitch. He's also the co-owner of ADV E-Liquid, and he's got a list and a slew of things that are on. But if you would, please welcome Mr. John Nathan. John, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Mike. Thank you very much for asking me to come on.
Oh, dude, I'm glad that you made it. I really am.
I know we've been coordinating for quite a while. It's been cat and mouse trying to get it going, but
yep.
I think the last fire I started was a good segue into making it happen.
That's part of the reason, and we're going to talk about that here in a little while. It's part of the whole reason that I really wanted to be able to talk to you, is because you have an extreme, definitive outlook about the PMTA.
Yes.
And there are people that may agree with it. There are people that may not. There have been some that have been very vocal. And I just wanted to stop and go, let's talk about that for a minute. So we're going to hit that in a few minutes. But if you would, the Vapor Technology Association, in which state again? New England.
We're 6 states. We are a regional chapter.
No shit.
So, yes, we are based out of Massachusetts, but we also handle the state of Maine, the state of New Hampshire, the state of Vermont, and we cover Connecticut and Rhode Island, but they have very, very strong SFATA chapters, so we kind of just have a symbiotic relationship where we work together and try to see if we can assist in any way. I have utmost respect for those chapters, and it just wasn't feasible to try and march in, but you can't just call yourself a coalition of 4 states, so we rounded it up to the New England Vapor Technology Association. So we covered those 6 states in the Northeast.
Wow. And you are the president of that entire organization, correct?
Absolutely. I'll tell you this, though. New Hampshire is not on my plate. My vice president, Alex Moody, and our director of New Hampshire, Paul Beasley, those two take head on over there, and they're making great strides. They got a 65% tax knocked down to 8%. They've made friends with the Senate. They're attending fundraisers. They're, New England Vapor Technology Association.
Thank you. Wow.
Oh,
that's huge.
So the majority of what we do is we handle a lot of Massachusetts and Maine has been the majority of the fights that we've had. Vermont was very, very rural, very hard to get together. There were a couple guys that worked their asses off, but the governor was pretty dead set on putting a stranglehold on this industry. And he announced that when he got elected governor again. He had confirmed that he wanted to do a 90%, 2% tax, online sales ban, T21, everything you can imagine to throw at it. And they effectively did that. And, a shop owner, guy named Gaetano, I cannot pronounce the last name. It's funny, I'm Italian and from Jersey. I should be able to roll this stuff off my tongue like it's nothing. But a couple of years, up here at the Irish in Massachusetts, and I've forgotten where I came from. But this guy, Gaetano, I mean, it's honestly one of those heartbreak stories. Like, you read about these, this shop owner is going to lose their shop. But, I mean, this is a guy, this man has owned a vape shop, a couple vape shops called 802 E6 Supply, okay? He is a firefighter. He owns a construction company, and he owns these shops where every single day the man gets up and does his best to convert Vermonters and Vermonter smokers. And for years, he had gone to the legislature, him by himself, and he would bring let's say a Vietnam vet, you know what I mean? An older gentleman who now has made it to the other side with vaping. And that was enough. He was able to just go up there and say, look, these are the people that I help, and it worked. And what we're dealing with now has just become so insidious that he had to take his shop and move it over the border to New Hampshire. And it's still called 802, which is a Vermont area code. Wow. You know what I mean? So this is the type of thing. So there's almost, you not only cause these shops the turmoil of having to either shut down, but even if they move, they lose their whole identity in it. You know what I mean? I'm not saying he's not going to set up and kill it in New Hampshire and do a great job. He's a great man and he does a good business. But these are the type of things we don't think about. You know what I mean? He had that area code up. That's pride in your state. And imagine having to take that area code across a state line because they would not embrace tobacco harm reduction technology. We had a lot of successes in Maine. We had a lot in New Hampshire. We've had foothill successes in Massachusetts, but we have a lot going on right now. We have a very, very public media circus style flavor ban. Our state attorney general came and spoke on it. We had multiple reps that weren't even on the committee come testify against it. The mayor of Boston came and testified, gave a tidbit to the news. The problem is that we always talk about these super, progressive hotbeds where these sort of things happen. And California gets a bad rap for it, but Massachusetts is known to be first on this sort of thing. They love to trailblaze forward, and I'm doing the best of my ability. So, I mean, believe it or not, I actually was able to get a meeting together with the mayor of Boston. I have the state attorney general. When she testified against us, I went and grabbed her and talked to her on the side. And you know what I did? I commended her on other things she's done. You know what I mean? And I don't agree with a lot of what she's done. I didn't even vote for her, But the point is I had to throw her a bone to open up dialogue. And as a direct result, she wants a meeting with us, And the tipping point to that was all I had to do was say, listen, I'm not Juul. I'm against Juul. Yeah. And this is going to put me out of business. My biggest line that I've been saying to a lot of these Massachusetts legislatures, and it's a ballsy thing to say, but it works, is I say, hey, I'm the largest manufacturer of the best flavored vape liquid in this state, and you've never heard of me. So give me a minute and I'll explain to you why. You know what I mean? Like, if these kids wanted flavor, I'm on every shop in Massachusetts shelves. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? We support our own here. You know what I mean? And I'm everywhere. If they wanted flavor, they'd be using more flavorful products. So I try to push it to them. The issue is not the flavors. The issue is the concealability of a small device and the high concentrations of nicotine giving them the buzz that they seek. I started smoking cigarettes because it made my head dizzy. That is why I started, not because I loved the taste of tobacco.
No, nobody does.
No. Some weird people do. I mean, listen, I like cigars, so I can't say I hate the taste of tobacco. But as far as a cigarette, it's disgusting.
Wow.
I don't regularly smoke cigars. I just want to put that out there. I abstain from all tobacco products, except those that are falsely deemed as such.
It's funny. I was just turning around and having a mild tiff of a conversation. It's not really even that. He and I bat back and forth. Bill Tarling. And he and I were talking. And Dayton, Ohio has turned around now. The city of Dayton is saying any state or any employee of Dayton, Ohio has to be tobacco free after July 15th. You know, anybody, any new hire, not allowed to smoke, nothing. And they'll give you tests and things like this. And if you test positive at the end of your probation, you get shit canned. Okay, fine. One, how can they do that? Two, Bill brought up a very huge point. He goes, doesn't that throw nicotine into the Schedule 1 drug category because now they're going to drug test you for it? He goes, nicotine is not a Schedule 1 drug.
I mean, the way I see that, too, when I read that, and it sucks, because I made a very tongue-in-cheek joke because my ex-wife lives in Dayton, and I just, to her. But at the end of the day, like, there's hundreds of thousands of smokers and former smokers that are about to be in a horrible predicament. So if anyone saw that comment, I was just kind of taking a dig at my ex-wife, but I wasn't trying to undermine the severity of it. What I see with this, though, is there's bad laws, there are unconstitutional laws, there are, unjust laws, but this is almost a human rights violation, because what you're telling me now is that I do not own my body anymore. You're telling me that my ability to put a mild central nervous stimulant into my body, which is molecularly akin to caffeine, gives you now a right to seize my employment and to cause hardship in my life because I decided to. I mean, are they going to go after people drinking espresso? Because, there's no difference between what caffeine isolated and what nicotine isolated does to the body. It's a mild central nervous stimulant.
Yep.
It's not cocaine. That's why it's not in the same category. That's disgusting, and I really hope that there's a severe constitutional challenge to that.
There might be. There very well might be.
That seems like a Fourth Amendment issue, too. Like, I don't see it because it's not in the interest of public health. It's not warranting the commission of a crime. If you want to drug test me, it's because you believe I did something illegal. You know what I mean? Or if the state has a right to drug test me, it's because I've signed some sort of contract that makes me a ward of the state or on paper or some sort of contractual agreement. But who the hell are you to ask me if I put a mild central nervous stimulant in my body? That's disgusting. I mean, to be real with you, how far do you want to go with this? Vicks vapor inhalers? Vicks vapor inhalers, the little things that you put in your nose and you smell. Do you know what the active ingredient of that is?
No.
Levomethamphetamine, which is the non-psychoactive stereoisomer of meth. So, like, if we really want to start nitpicking about what's in what, you know what I mean? Like, we have to stop looking at words and demonizing them and looking at the application and the intent. Nicotine is not a bad word. Cigarette smoking is a bad word.
Yep.
Combustible tobacco is a bad habit. There's nothing wrong with nicotine in its isolated form except for the addictive properties and the basic sort of reactions of the body of a central nervous stimulant. Someone drinking 8, straight black coffees with a turbo shot throughout the day is technically putting more in their body than I am hitting this every couple minutes.
Yeah, I would agree. And
science doesn't work.
It cracks me up because we again fell right into, if they find that you are smoking when you begin your job, they'll give you cessation products. But I turn around and I'm thinking, all right, stop. You don't want me to have vapor products. You don't want me to have tobacco products. You don't want me to have any kind of nicotine products. You don't want me to have nothing. But you're going to say using nicotine through a patch or gum or lozenges is all right. because it's FDA approved, right? That's their fallback line, right?
And it's the sneakiest thing ever, too, because what they always do in the public hearings is they go, well, if this is such a smoking cessation product, why don't you market it as such? And then you have to explain to them that we have, which I believe is a First Amendment issue. I truly believe that. I do not believe, I believe that stifling me from talking about the proven scientific benefits of the product that I sell is a travesty. By you not allowing me to honestly look at a smoker and say, yes, these products can help you, you are essentially dampening this industry and pushing us into a corner where you can point and say, look what they're doing. Of course we're not. We're not allowed to. I would advertise, I would tattoo it on my forehead if I could. The problem is that they stifle us, and then they ask us if this is a smoking cessation product, how come you're not marketing it as such? And then you tell them that, and then they say, well, how come you don't go through the process? And at that point, this is a good segue.
That's huge. But go ahead.
But reality is that's a pharmaceutical pathway to call yourself a smoking cessation device. It's not even a tobacco pathway.
Right.
And if you think that the tobacco pathway is brutal, take a gander on what it takes to get a product approved through the pharmaceutical process.
I can't even imagine what it would do to have to go through that kind of hoops to say, here, let's check this out and do it this way. That's got to be insane.
I mean, that's the best way to ban something, is to set the bar too high. You know, if you want to open up a craft brewery, you can, but it's going to cost you 6 figures as a point of entry. And as a direct result, guess how many problems we have in the craft brewery industry.
Yep.
But there's a huge difference between ponying up 6 figures and ponying up 6 figures 10 times over for a 50-50 gamble with a corrupt organization that has only approved 1 in 12 years. That's all I'm going to say. You set me up, so I just rolled right into it.
That's perfectly fine. Let's talk about this.
Sure.
You have a very particular outlook on the PMTA process.
Yes.
It is not the popular outlook.
Correct. It doesn't sound good. It doesn't feel good to hear. It doesn't sound valiant. It doesn't allow you to put an S on your chest. It sounds defeatist, even though it isn't. It's realist. The idea that and you know what, I understand everybody who's opposing me, because and people think that I have this inconsistency with what I said. Because a couple of weeks ago, I made a loose, you know what, I won't call it a joke. I said, what if when they say to stop, we all just don't? Okay? And then later on, I said, the PMTA is not a viable option. We need to keep fighting. And people said, well, you said the other day that you're going to keep going. I said I'm going to keep going. I didn't say I'm doing a PMTA. I have never called the PMTA process anything other than a de facto ban since 2016. That is what it is. That is what is intended to do. And the idea that, a small business owner like myself thinks that I can register some tobacco products, fill out an ingredient submission. This is just paperwork. Yep. They had us do secretarial work for them. What we're talking about taking on, okay, I have a bottle of e-liquid. Let's just say I somehow get this approved. What device am I going to use it in? What is its intended use? What device? There is no PMTA approved open vapor device. I have to show that this has an intended use with a tobacco product. I'm not just going to be able to put bottles of e-liquid on a shelf and hope everybody has the hardware that our ancestors once used. It's just not going to work that way. The idea of interchangeable coils to the FDA, are you kidding me? The idea of external batteries, like, these are huge red flags. I do not believe that the PMTA pathway, as it is written, and I made sure I was very clear on that, without huge reform. There was a webinar the other day where they said it could cost, there was an estimate of $600,000. And I believe that using a moral high ground to tell small business owners, you don't care about the industry unless you take $500,000 and roll the dice with it on a process that only one company, mishmash snooze, And then the IQS has the IQOs, I don't know how to say it because I'm never going to fucking use it. That's my one curse word. The IQOS, the heat not burn thing, that's PMI. It's Philip Morris International.
Yep.
Do you really believe that I'm going to walk in there with my flat brim hat and sit next to Altria execs and be afforded the same position at the table, believing that the PMTA process is achievable by anybody is denying the fact that there is crony capitalism in this country. Vaping is not going anywhere. It is changing hands. The FDA does not want to deal with a bunch of manufacturers. They want to deal with the same 5 bad guys they've been dealing with for decades, that they have agreements with, that they have understandings with, that they have rapport with. If we were able to present ourselves in a different way, and maybe, it could have been different. But the HPHC testing, 7-panel on liquid and aerosol, like the estimates are over 10 months. So someone said to me, will there be an approved PMTA by 10? No, absolutely not. I would put everything down on that it is absolutely impossible for anybody to file and fulfill a PMTA. Swedish Match took 8 years for snus, and all that is a formulation of tobacco in a pouch. Nevertheless, the variety of holding it 3 seconds versus 2 seconds versus 18.1 watts versus 18.2 watts, that all matters. People are grossly misunderestimating. And we have a lot of these sidelines lawyers, which I play one too. I'm going to be honest. There's some times where I think that I can interpret some legal jargon. But the one thing I can do is understand that we have found a point where there is an unachievable process. And instead of fighting further and standing up and saying this is not achievable and we cannot do this, give us a pathway, we have people sitting there going, well, that's the only way. For an industry full of libertarians, these people are really, really quick to lick the FDA's boot. I'm sorry, I am not willing to spend that money and hope that federal bureaucracy is going to pause just because they like my beard and my tattoos. It's just not going to happen. You're talking multi-billion-dollar international conglomerates are the only ones prepared.
Let's back up here a few seconds because I know, and I want to get into a lot more of that. Let's say for shits and grins that you put your e-liquid, one flavor, is going to cost you God knows how much. You're saying that I can't really define which of these I'm going to use it on. I've got multiple systems. So even if it were to pass, how is the FDA going to say it's compatible with this, with that, with a pod? So you're basically at that point saying it's impossible for the FDA to pass the liquid simply because of hardware.
This has the best way of passing. It is a set product. It is in a set pod. It is going to hit at the exact same rate. And even then, the duration that you drag on it matters. You know what I mean? Like all of these factors, people just don't understand. TPD is literally the preliminary action. If you went through the TPD process, that is a drop in the bucket of the initial action necessary to begin the PMTA process. By the time you finish the paperwork, another thing too is I want to know who your attorney is. What attorney out there right now that doesn't work for PMI and the Big Five and the BT that has experience passing a PMTA? You cannot find one because there's only been one passed and one in preliminary. So what attorney are you going to trust? If I'm going to hire a regulatory compliance attorney, I don't want to gamble with that guy. Have you done this? I don't know. Let's figure it out. I mean, sure, there could definitely, I'm not saying that they don't understand the process. They understand everything to it. But like, this is a massive gamble that's being guilted onto manufacturers. I'm going to fight against PMTA. You know what I mean? I am not going to sit down and say that is a viable option. And you know what? It doesn't feel good. And I know it sounds good to say you're going to fill one out. I know it sounds good to say that you're coordinating with the FDA. Anyone could get a meeting. You know what I mean? We all could get meetings. It doesn't mean anything. When that work starts and people start to really see what falls down on them, you're going to have to make a decision. Am I going to risk the next 10 months on this and all my revenue and everything I got into failing? Or am I going to take that money and direct it towards fighting this? If you have $500,000 right now to file on a PMTA, if you're willing to gamble it, why don't you gamble it on the VTA? Why don't you gamble it on an organization that's boots on the ground trying to get this changed? Like if you're going to gamble on our advocacy orders. That's where you shove your money. You know, and I understand there's a lot of people don't know where to put it. Well, put it somewhere. Put it where your mouth is. But I'm sorry, this whole idea of PMTA, it's nothing but grandstanding. Everyone, I'm going to do it. Oh, okay, I'm going to do it. Sounds good. And then I say I'm not, and I look like the bad guy. No, I'm just being honest.
Let's call a spade a spade. We know damn well 90% of the industry is not going to file for a PMTA.
99.5, I would say.
I was trying to be nice.
Yeah. I mean, they'll try. I see people say, I'm just going to send a big packet of nothing over. That's not filing a PMTA. That's skirting the system. Okay, I could submit bullshit taxes, but eventually it's going to catch up to me. It doesn't mean I didn't make money that year. It just means I submitted bullshit. So I don't care what people think they're going to put on paper and submit. There is no viable option for you to complete and submit a PMTA that would even be approved before the next solution does. If there's any PMTA that's going to get passed, Juul would have done it. My other big question is if PMTA was viable, then how come Fontum, one of the big five tobacco conglomerates that has actually invested into open vapor, that owns stakes in open vapor companies, why wouldn't they be pushing that product through the PMTA process?
I have a sneaky suspicion that they may, at the last minute, do so. And I also have... I'm not a conspiracy theory nut, but I think a lot. I enjoy doing it. So my brain says, are these people waiting until the 11th hour to file within regulation, within the capability, so that they don't have anybody else filing the substantial equivalence to try to follow in behind them? You know, that's what I'm asking is, are there people out there ready to follow? Because you know that Juul's going to go for it, and they're probably going to make it.
This industry, Juul is going to win. And that's the other thing too. When you say that, people go, "Oh man, how could you say?" It's not an endorsement. My Twitter bio says tobacco harm reduction, e-cig/vapor, #screw Juul, because I want to create a distance between myself and them. But let me ask you something. If the FDA is going to spend their time with anybody, it's going to be with someone who has 2/3 of the market. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's going to be the multi-billion-dollar organization that is minority stake owned by a publicly traded tobacco company and has a board of directors and has a team of lawyers and has a team of lobbyists. I mean, Juul has people in all 50 states. We need organizations to do that.
Yeah. See, and that's the one thing. When Altria dropped $12.5 billion on Juul.
Big mistake. Their stock price plummeted. It was a terrible investment. They're eating it for that. I hold Altria's. I hold stock in the tobacco companies. You play what you know. When I know exactly, if we win, tobacco's going to sink. I jumped out of tobacco stock. It's a horrible place to be. And it's because they're getting beat up. And you know what? Every single time that they attack vaping, tobacco stocks bump a little bit.
Every time there's bad news in vaping, those tobacco stocks go up.
That's what I was playing on.
Yep.
I was like, okay, here comes bad news. But it's terrible. I mean, the reality is that's how you have to hedge your bets, because the evil is going to win. And I mean, the thing is if you want to change that system, it's not going to happen with a PMTA application. It's going to happen on a much grander scale. And if you're curious about that, we need to have a different conversation. I mean, we need a huge, a change to our regulatory process and how the FDA treats new technologies and new products and public health advancements that are coming from the private sector. Let's be real. We are a grassroots small business industry that is disrupting multi-billion-dollar conglomerates. That's a problem, and they're not just going to let you go.
It's been a problem, and a lot of people are talking disruption. For people that are listening or maybe listening to the podcast later, you'll have to backtrack and do a little bit of homework and find this wonderfully crafted law piece that is called the Master Settlement Agreement from 1999. This gigundous piece of paperwork basically says 46 states got together and sued the 4 largest tobacco companies because the states were spending more in medical funding to take care of the people that had cancer. And it was because of Big Tobacco's fault because they were all smokers. So the 4 big companies got together and said, all right, fine, we will pay you X amount per year in forever. They call it in perpetuity. But it's basically forever. It's not going to stop unless somebody takes it back to court and rams the whole thing through again. However, you're talking about, and I will only say Ohio because it's on the top of my mind, and I don't know. Ohio last year had like $1.3 billion from this settlement money given to Ohio. And please understand, folks, this MSA money is based upon how many cigarettes are sold in each state. So here comes vaping, starts knocking down tobacco sales. Ohio, and again, I'm just saying Ohio because this is where I live. Ohio now has lost revenue in cigarette taxation, and they also have lost revenue in their MSA money to the tune of a couple $100 million a year. And if anybody thinks that any state is just going to go, oh, we're losing $200 million this year, Jimmy, we're going to be fine, you're full of shit. They will defend that tooth and nail because it's free money for them.
I agree, but here's what I do believe, okay? Because I got into a back and forth with someone on a different, it's a little bit more politically nuanced. I don't want to bring into this, but we were discussing about how a certain policy would give way to vaping being safe, and someone had said it's not about the public health detriment, it's about the MSA money. And that's true, but we also have to remember that this attack is a two-pronged approach, and we're mashing it all together. The taxes are to recoup that MSA money. The flavor bans and the rhetoric about putting us out of business is dictated by pharma. Taxes, no one likes them, survivable, negotiable. Right. We can argue those. We can fight those. We can get fair taxation. That is, I know people are going to say there's no such thing as fair taxation. I get it. But we live in America and we live in reality, and everything here gets taxed or regulated, especially something that is deemed a sin industry. So taxation, we could have made a deal, okay? We can sit there and we could come up with a comprehensive tax plan, understanding that the state needs their money. But there's also the flip side that if pharma wasn't blockading this, they know they would get their master settlement money from the sales of Juuls. They would get it from other tobacco products. If these are deemed tobacco products, the major thing is the for-profit evil healthcare system with its pharmaceutical lobbies. That is what's holding us down. I don't agree. I completely agree that it is absolutely a talking point when the states start depleting their monies, they're issuing bonds against projected sales that aren't happening. I understand that. It is very much a financial issue. But on the flip side, the boot that's going to crush us is pharma. That is the massive, massive enemy. Everything else is just typical capitalism and corruption. 46 attorney generals made deals with the devil. Welcome to America. That is crony capitalism in a nutshell. What is happening on the pharma side is pure evil.
There's somebody in the chat room that agrees with you, Scott Threet. Said the disruption to the pharmaceutical industry is greater than the tobacco companies. Everywhere I've ever looked,
companies are investing into us.
Pardon?
The tobacco companies are investing into us. The pharmaceutical once it's gone. See, the thing is that we can exist in synergy with tobacco. They don't have any problem with cool. We'll get them here, and then we'll get them off with our other product. Altria has no issue getting you hooked on the Marlboros and then plugging the Juul. You know what I mean? That's fine. They're just going to take you through the nicotine addiction process as long as they can. And they would have less of a public health crisis calling out at them if they were pushing harm reduction products. And they would still make their money. So if all this was MSA, then they would still stomp us out, but they would be endorsing the tobacco companies moving into harm reduction technology. They would be embracing it and say, okay, cool. We want our MSA money. We want these guys gone. We understand that public health matters, and we want to keep our people healthy. RJ Reynolds, British American Tobacco, Japanese Tobacco, all of you guys, I want to see you guys put out a harm reduction product by 2024 and begin the phase out of cigarettes, and they will still make their money. Because nicotine addiction is not going anywhere. Nicotine experimentation is not going anywhere. And people are still going to smoke, and people are still going to need to get off. I quit smoking for the first time. I've had some blunders over the last time, but I quit smoking in 2008. For 11 years, I've had vapor technology at my hand. I was 19 years old. I have never lost this tool. I have always known I had this tool. You know what I mean? Like this is just changing hands to somebody else. If they wanted to really, really keep this going, I'm 11 years on this. You got me. I'm hooked. I'm a nicotine addict. I'm not going to die from smoking, but I'm a nicotine addict, and maybe perpetually, maybe for life. It's not something I'm willing to quit right now, but I'm using a product 95% safer than smoking, and there's profit in this, and people are buying them, and people are spending a lot of money on them, and they can recoup those losses. Pharma is the reason we're going away.
It's true.
I'm not calling them, I'm not saying tobacco companies are great, but they want us here. The tobacco companies love us. We're building their market for them. We have guys all over Instagram advertising illegally in ways that they can't. We're putting vapor technology out there, and then they stomp us out. They put it out and they go, thanks, assholes. Thanks for all those boots on the ground. Thanks for opening those shops. Thanks for putting up those billboards. Now everybody knows, here we are to get their money for life.
Uh-huh. And it is the unfortunate part, because again, they're sitting around and they know that we're going to continue, just as you said, we're going to continue to vape. If they railroad vape out of the way, then we're going to go back to smoking. Most people will. The DIY crowd, that's a whole different segment, a whole different kind of thing. But there's still a couple questions that I've got on my mind. But first, before we get into that, we're going to stop and take a break for our sponsor. And I will say it now, the guy that is here on our show tonight is one of the sponsors for Smoke Free Radio. I just haven't had the capability to have Dimitri come back and do another voiceover for it. And every time I forget to say ADV liquid, Patrick comes around with his big fucking club, and he's going to nail me with it one of these days. So
I love Patrick.
Yeah, he's awesome. We'll be right back after this, folks.
Hey now, this is Dimitri with Smoke Free Radio reminding you to please show some love to our wonderful sponsors. Without them, there would be no Smoke Free Radio, and they are as follows. All the way from Florida, Moon Mountain Vapor, with locations in Florida, and their liquid available for wholesale and retail, moonmountainvapor.com. Some of the best custards and tobaccos on the market from the Brickwills Vaping Company. The lovely Shell with a vapor bar, locations in Texas, Virginia, and West Virginia. And of course online at thevaporbar.com. And who says you can't have award-winning e-liquid without cartoon characters? That's exactly what you're going to get at theplumeroom.com. And finally, of course, the Vaping Advocate magazine that has generously provided the telephone lines for you to communicate with us. Thank you for your support. And finally, for you, the listener, don't forget to check out the coupons and codes page on Smoke Free Radio. Pick up some e-liquid and save some money. From all of us here at Smoke Free Radio, thank you for your continued support.
Hey folks, P. Basardo here, and you're listening to Vaping and the Mic with Mike Peterson.
coming back after our sponsor slot. This evening, you are joining in with me as we talk with John Nathan. And we've been talking an awful lot about the PMTA process and why he is, well, I would dare say, pretty much adamant against it, would be a fair assumption. He's been rather vocal about it on some of the chat room topics and things like that. And he's taken some time to explain some of this. But I've got a serious question about all of that. In the PMTA, there is this thing basically that you have to prove that kids are not going to use your product. How the hell is anyone going to prove that? Oh, and here it's, see, I turn around, I got nothing. Nobody's got nothing. Hold on. Poor guy, he's sitting here, he's on mute, and he's frustrated. My apologies, sir.
Listen, there's a lot of people that wish they could put me on mute. Trust me. I don't talk. Mute is an absolutely necessary evil. Please mute me. I'll keep talking anyway. I'm from Jersey.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. These are the other clinical trials that we haven't even gotten into. You know what I mean? Like every single time you turn the page. I mean, you're right. I don't know. And to think that I do or think that I'm ready to tackle that when no one has been able to, find me one example of somebody being able to prove a trial where children will not use a vapor product. Prove it. You can't.
No.
And this is what I'm saying. This has been set up for us to go, okay, they gave us a way to do it. This is wonderful. Okay, it may be rough, but at least there's a way through. There is no way through. There is none.
Yep,
so you either need a massive... Listen, and I promise you this. If I believed there was a way through, we would do it. We would do it. My partner, Steven, and I have been very diligent on saving our money and making sure that we had an ability to push something through. You know what I mean? If that time came. For years, we have always talked about it. If we get to that point, we want to be one of the ones that make it. There is no making it. And people think that I'm spitting on it, but I'm telling you to fight harder. I'm telling you that we can't pretend that they have given us a bone when they haven't. You're giving the FDA too much credit. They know exactly what they are doing. They know what they are doing. This is to get rid of us. It's this simple. The lazy classification in itself is indicative. You know what I mean? Like there's a whole bunch of things that people say. I've heard. I don't even know who to attribute it to because I know Nick Orlando. I've heard Dolores Orlando. I've heard James Jarvis say it, but they always say like milk is not a beef product. You know what I mean? And that's the problem. The FDA decided that, you know what, instead of us really taking the time to look into this, we're just going to lazily classify it by the same similar active ingredient. We're just going to toss it in this category. You guys got 2 years. Adios. Okay? Gottlieb came in. He didn't throw us. He probably recognized the economic impact, knew he was going to take off to the Pfizer board, gave us enough of a stretch so that this, the job loss, like I said, the economic impact didn't fall on him. You know what I mean? He skated off to Pfizer. Then he started issuing more negativity than he's ever said when he was in office. You know what I mean?
I don't. That's one thing that just pisses me off. You left office, dude. You resigned, and you quit. Now, clamp it and go work for the other company that you now work for.
Not only that, but he passed record amount of pharmaceutical drugs during his tenure. He got placed in. He said, okay, I don't want job losses on me. I don't want outrage. I just want to get in here. He pushed his buddies through. Now, remember the term I said. This is crony capitalism, okay? This is government shaking hands with private business and saying, I got you. I'll get rid of the competition. I will secure your spot in the American consumer market. Denying this would believe that there's a level playing field in America. There really, really isn't. No. And you have to get it out of your head. And if you believe I'm full of shit, just take any other industry that has spawned from the grassroots and made it. Look at cannabis. It's going in the same direction. You know what I mean? Anything that the people start, it will eventually, like, here's what I tell people all the time. You want to see proof of this? Watch when cannabis goes legal federally. Watch. You have all these state programs and these small business and these grow-ups and these cultivators and these dispensaries and these manufacturers and transportation companies. But when Bayer comes to the table and says, all right, here's a couple thousand acres of pot plants. We have 50-cent joints loaded with, growth hormones. We can do it cheaper than everybody else. They're going to snuff those state programs out. The small business goes out and the big boys take over. There's a reason that all of your news channels come from two companies. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Everything is consolidated at the top. There is no such thing as a multi-billion-dollar industry remaining completely in the hands of small business. It doesn't work that way. And to believe there's any other way out of it is ridiculous. We're not ready to play the game that they're setting up for us. It is not achievable. What we need to do is fight on merit, explain the economic impact of this, expose them for shirking public health the way that they are, and take a stand. What is that stand? I don't know. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a lobbyist. I'm not a government relations specialist, but I trust them. And you know what? I can't find one person at a national level that is telling me you really need to do a PMTA. And they're very specific about that. They're very specific about that. They'll do webinars. They'll explain the process. They'll have someone else come in and tell you what it's going to be like. But no one's endorsing filling out a PMTA. If this was a viable option, people much smarter than me and the people who oppose me would be publicly saying, hey, guys, this is achievable. We're going to create a platform to help our people do it. And maybe they are. Maybe there is. I mean, they do have that responsibility to at least do the research and put it forward. But no one is adamantly saying, all right, guys, let's start the PMTA process, because it's not achievable.
No.
And all I'm trying to tell people is stop settling. Stop saying, okay, federal government, yes, I will take $500,000 and throw it out the window. And then if I don't, I'll just quietly go out of business because I believe there's a pathway. I just can't afford it.
Now, I'm going to ask you two more questions here.
Shoot.
And again, phone lines are open, folks. It's 215-383-5752. I'm just trying to keep things civil because I've got things on my mind. John's explaining what he is believing to be what's happening. There's no problem with that. People will agree with him. People are not going to agree with him. We're all over the board. But I looked at his chats that he was doing, and I couldn't catch all of it. So I asked him, would you come on the show and explain this? He said, yeah. Here's two things. We'll take them one at a time. And just that quick, they leave my mind. God, I hate getting old. My brain is just everywhere. There is chat or chatter about the FDA allowing companies to come together to combine their things on what they could to help pass a PMTA.
Yep, the Tobacco Master File. In fact, the lobbyist team, the lobbyist and government relations team for the Virginia Smoke-Free Association, they did a whole breakdown on that at their conference, which I attended like a month or two ago. I don't know, whatever the last time I saw Fig. So they did a whole thing on that. And yeah, there is a master file. And sure, that's going to exist. And I'm sure that master file exists and RJ Reynolds and Altria share it. You know what I mean? Like these types of files. But the thing is no one has put one together. So the idea that a whole bunch of companies are going to come together and do this, like, I mean, I understand, but it still doesn't negate the rest of the process. The rest of the process still needs to be achieved. The clinical trials are separate from that master file. The master file is about, and I don't want to say things I'm wrong about, but I remember seeing this breakdown, but it still does not exclude the clinical trials that are necessary. Another thing too is how are you formulating this? You know, do you really think that tobacco companies and the FDA is going to say, oh, this is 3% Capella Sweet Strawberry? You know what I mean? Like there's this, we need to be reformulated to tobacco toxicology standards. You have no idea if your flavorings fly through the FDA. We do not know that. You know, Cannoli B1 has 11 flavorings in it, and when it went through a mass spectrometer, it has 56 compounds. You know what I mean? Like that's your real signature. That's the real data that you have. Yep. And how do you know that one of those compounds, I mean, I'm not saying there's anything nefarious on any of the flavor houses. I'm not calling out, you know, any of them, none of them specifically. What I'm just saying is that you don't have the knowledge to know that one compound in your flavoring could be enough to bump you, and you just paid that money. You know what I mean? Like it's just
It's crazy.
The amount of hurdles that need to be gone over. We're talking years and years and years and years. I don't know about you, but I can't afford to shut down in 10 months and then just spend years dedicating to a process. I have to shift. We have families to feed. So the only thing I say, and this is my main thing, you can disagree with me. You could fill out a PMTA, and that is 100% fine. I am not dictating to people as an authority. I am a private business owner. Me and my partner, we make decisions regarding our company and our future. I am not telling anyone else to do it. If you believe I am wrong and you believe there's a pathway through it, if you do pass it, I will buy you a drink and I'll come right back on this show and say I'm wrong. I have total humility with that. I have no problem admitting when I'm wrong. Everyone knows I'm wrong quite a bit. But there's certain things that I mean, I've been consistent on this for years, and I have yet to see anything in another direction. But like I said, I'm not telling people what to do at all. All I'm saying is don't accept this. This is not a bone being thrown to us. This is an injustice. And by saying it's not is a disservice. But one thing I will say, you can do what you want, but I do not, and this is one thing I will condemn, I will not be admonished or put down or have my dedication or my love for this industry called into question because I am not taking an exorbitant amount of money and rolling the dice on a process that nobody has passed. That is wrong. Nobody has a right to call anyone's love for this industry or dedication to their products into question because they are not willing to take on a draconian process that nobody has passed. Okay? So,
right.
Sure, do what you need to do. Disagree with me, but don't tell me I'm wrong for what I am doing morally.
And again, that's why I started the whole evening. You can call this an opinion piece. You can call this an educational. You can call this we're going to piss in everybody's Wheaties. Okay? Flat out. Right? What people are saying is what they consider right or wrong. That's their definition. I wanted to talk to you to find out what was on your mind and why. I wanted to be educated about what you were thinking. That's all
I'm saying is what I'm thinking. And you know, there's a huge problem I have is I never say my opinion. I always speak everything as fact. And once again, guys, that's a very strong Jersey thing. We don't say when we're right or wrong or even leave no option to be wrong. So I speak everything as fact, and people take that a real wrong way. Like people think I'm sitting there going, "You're not going to pass PMTA." I'm sitting there going, like, "Hey guys, man, this is not an option. We gotta do something."
Hold on 1 second. We got a phone call that we're going to take. This is from area code 614. 614, you're on the air with Mike and John. Are you there?
Yeah. Hey, what's going on, Mike and Mr. John Nathan? How are you?
I know that voice, Mr. James Jarvis.
I already knew he was. What's up, James?
I could not resist. One of my favorite people in this industry, one of my favorite state association leaders. He is absolutely 100% speaking the truth when he's talking about the PMTA process, the FDA, Scott Gottlieb, and pharma. I mean, the whole thing, he's laid it out 100%. This was a plan all along. Gottlieb knew exactly where he was going with it. And then he leaves to go spend, quote-unquote, time with his family, shows back up 2 months later, and now there's a pharma pathway that people can take that he's pushing that none of us will ever be able to afford, but guess who can afford it?
The
other side.
It's totally true.
So,
it's crony capitalism, man. This is government shaking hands with the big business and saying, "Here, guys, I got you. I'll put these guys out. You take over. You save the day." And you know what else, James? This and Mike, this is another theory I have. I'll go conspiracy theorist. I believe the American Cancer Society knows this. I believe they know. I believe the FDA has said to them, "Listen, they're all going to be gone, and we're going to put a vapor product out, and we're going to be heroes. So you guys got to get ahead of the curve and endorse this." After they just campaigned around legislative sessions tanking us. The American Cancer Society in Maine sat at that tax hearing, spoke way over time at the public hearing, and then was given another opportunity to pretty much testify at the work session. And then a month later, after their damage is done, the tax was dropped to 43%, but a 43% tax is passed. Now the American Cancer Society has nothing but good things to say about the public health advancements of vapor technology. But they couldn't bring that up in session. They never once have said, listen, this is a very good step forward, but here are our concerns. No, it was demonizing, 10-month death sentence, and now all of a sudden, hey guys, we support this because there's 3 people shaking hands and we're not invited to that circle. And that's what's going on. It's like George Carlin said.
I'm going to go even one step further.
You ain't in it.
I'm going to think this. I think this whole thing, honestly, if you look at it, the way it was portrayed, they said on August 8th that this industry was done in 2 years. I think it was of 2016. Then they came out and gave us an extension, and then Gottlieb took over and gave us another extension, stringing us along. And then he leaves, and they have this magical lawsuit out of nowhere that nobody thinks there's any chance of hell of them winning. They won, and then they moved the date up. And ironically, at the same point in time, Gottlieb leaves and goes to Pharma. So
exactly.
Tell me they didn't have this whole thing planned on how to shut us down. They just strung us along the entire way. That's my own opinion.
Not only that, James, but think about this. The FDA was so in cahoots with this that they didn't even fight giving up their executive power. A government agency was given the ability to put forward rulemaking, and Congress can't check it. You know what I mean? They can bypass Congress. They can make laws and enact them as they want. What department is willing to say, okay, a coalition of parents, you know what I mean, and the ANTS groups are able to pull a lawsuit, and a judge said this, executive does not, they have a right to appeal this, and they didn't. They're playing into the hands. My partner said it. My partner, Stephen, believes that they just said, okay, cool, now we got a scapegoat. It was the judge. You know what I mean? It's just passing the buck, passing the blame. I mean, the judge's suggestions were straight out of the FDA's mouth. They gave us first they gave us a death date, then they gave us an extension, then they rolled it back another year, and then they cut it back by another year and a half. They're fucking with us. But they know what they're doing.
It smells horrible. They knew this plan was happening. They had people already in place. They knew how to string us along, and they did. And we had shown them how to make money off this industry. And now, guess what? They called Juul into the office, and they have this whole piece about how Juul's the horrible, horrible thing. And then Altria buys Juul. Gottlieb gets pissed off, issues this letter, and next thing you know, he leaves. We have less than 10 months, and now they're going to go the pathway of pharmaceuticals. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah. Let me ask both of you guys a question.
Sure.
Let's say, for shits and grins, that the lawsuit that is levied against the FDA for allowing someone to sign these documentations without the proper authority to do so actually wins. Then what?
I'm sorry.
Honestly,
okay.
From my end, I'm going to say that if this happens to win, the PLF lawsuit you're referring to,
right?
I think what's going to happen at that point is the FDA will just go back and issue a new set of deeming rules, and they're going to give us 10 months from that day to get in line. Doesn't say they couldn't have to, and just have the new acting person or whomever sign it. That's where I look at it. They've got their asses covered either way, in my opinion.
I believe so too. I hate saying it, but I believe the only way to get national attention is by a mass show of force. I'm not saying armed. No one think I'm fucking saying let's go crazy, but I'm saying that we're not loud enough. You know what I mean? And enough people don't know. And you're realizing now how hard it is to speak over these ANTS groups. They have a massive, massive progressive media campaign, and it's very, very hard to speak over them. And at the end of the day, it's difficult, it's hard, because it's getting to the point, it's hard to deny that it's an issue. You know what I mean? I don't call it an epidemic, people aren't going to die as a result. I think epidemic is a scary terminology to use, but it is an issue, youth access, but they've never tried a youth prevention bill. We've never tried civil penalties similar to underage drinking. We've never tried criminalizing the purchase of tobacco for someone underage. We've never tried using licensure, light licensure to put these guys on the hook. Tell these vape shops, you sell to someone underage, you get 10 grand fine. Next time you lose your license and you go out of business. Watch how quick they do that. We didn't try mandatory ID scanners. We didn't try any of this. So it's not about finding our way through the darkness. They're getting rid of us. Like, we got to stop them from getting rid of us.
Yeah. It is. It is.
They're letting us get rid of ourselves, honestly.
Damn
Because
right.
this industry was so immature in the beginning, we set ourselves up for failure from the beginning because we were so immature. We had no idea what we were doing. We found a new stream for fun. Some of us found a stream to save people's lives, and we never took it seriously. The industry thought it was fun. And now all of a sudden we're being held accountable for the actions of some really shitty operators back 5-6 years ago.
Yep.
And now we're getting blamed for all that crap. And it's absolutely wrong. And they're using that. I mean, they're calling Juul a product that is attractive to youth. Last time I looked at a Juul package, that says nothing about attractiveness. It's the most plain packaging I could ever see. And whether you love Juul, hate Juul, they do great for the industry about bringing smokers in. It's unfortunate they got caught up in what they did. And, whether they did it on purpose or not, I don't think they did. But if they did, they did. They did, they didn't. Doesn't matter. They're being the whipping boy because they're the biggest company out there. But they're using Juul on all the posts, but they're showing open system liquids in their pictures. It's absolutely ridiculous. And they're showing open system liquids from 5 years ago that we in the industry, like VTA, with marketing standards, have already addressed. But yet they're still using it against us because it's pushing their narrative. And it's time we stand up and we take this back because this is our industry. We built it. We showed them that this can save lives. So we need to stand up as an industry. If you own a business, pay attention to VTA. Do the VTA fly-in if you're in your state association. If you're a consumer, dial into the Vaping Legion. Whether you like them or hate them, they're planning a rally on DC. It's time that we stand up. We're sick of taking the shit, and it's time we kick back a little bit.
I agree. And the other thing, too, I want to say, from a pure tobacco harm reduction point, I have no business, nothing at all, just tobacco harm reduction. Juul's a great company. What they do is they put a device next to cigarettes that has a very high chance of getting you off of them. But Juul as a company, now the problem is and listen, I'm not saying other people wouldn't do it in that position. You know what I mean? I understand you're at the top, crush your competition, bash them, get rid of them. We got to take over this market. I understand that. That's okay when you're making cars. That's okay when you're creating a product that should be standalone. We're talking about public health. We're talking about tobacco harm reduction. You're pushing your product and putting your foot on the faces of the people that built your market for you, the people that introduced this technology into the general public, and the people who held this industry for nearly a decade without being called an epidemic. So when they're the ones that came onto the field, they need to deal with the brunt, and they need to come up with solutions to clean up their name without destroying ours, because we didn't have an epidemic when it was in our hands.
I'm going to ask you another question.
Go ahead.
The mainstay public does not give a shit about vaping.
Absolutely.
So when we sit and say that we need to change public perception, I might as well go take a leak right out my window and water my bushes, because I'm going to accomplish about the same thing. We talk about this, and I say this, we have all seen it. We are on advocacy panels. James was just down in North Carolina on an advocacy stage. John, you're out there.
You heard
everywhere.
my message, right?
I heard them all. And the public could give two shits less. As a matter of fact, because of all the Fox News, all the garbage news, they're saying, These guys need to be taxed just like everybody else. We really don't know if that is safe because they don't care. Apathy is horrible.
One thing I'll say about public perception, and this is what I try to tell people, anybody who uses a vapor product and goes and tells another person about it, you're an advocate immediately. So when it comes to changing public perception, I believe when I say that, I am not bright enough to talk about on a collective level, like a huge PR campaign. But when I say changing public perception, I mean responsibly using vapor products in public and making myself available to smokers to explain it. My banker that I stopped by, not even my banker, I stopped by to get a letter notarized yesterday. And all I did was mention what I do. And she asked me, oh, I've tried this and tried that, and I still smoke cigarettes. And I got her a Juno the next day, and I dropped it off to her. That's that, and I'm not saying pat me on the back. That happens everywhere. That is advocacy. So if you are a consumer and you have seen a change in your life from using these products, all you got to do is tell people, as many as you know that trust you, what you know. And unfortunately, that's not quick enough to ripple across, 325 million people within 10 months. I understand that. But I said it the other day, how many of us are still going to talk about this technology, even if we lose our next? You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry, I'm a tobacco harm reduction advocate for the rest of my life, whether or not I profit from it until tobacco is illegal and every smoker is quit and off nicotine. And I'm not saying I'm going to achieve it. It's not a huge lofty goal, but I will always be an advocate for tobacco harm reduction for as long as combustible tobacco exists and for as long as people are getting hooked and dying, and I just feel that, like, the thing is that we're very quick. I feel like more people have to die for us to realize it. Whenever we have an epidemic, a real epidemic where something is killing people and it happens in a short period of time, we act. HIV, we reacted. Hepatitis C, we react. Opioid crisis, we react. But smoking has been a decades and decades and decades. It's part of our culture now. We don't see cigarettes as an epidemic. We see the new thing as an epidemic. This is new and it's everywhere. This is a problem. We got to get rid of it.
The biggest
to echo that. So my main message on that panel that day was to lead by example. If you're in here, because these were a lot of brand new vapors for the first time, and my message was, when you walk out of these doors, don't go blow in the biggest cloud you can blow. Don't let your friend that's been vaping for 5 years force you into a device that you're not ready for. You have to know your surroundings, be aware of your surroundings. Don't blow huge clouds in the middle of Times Square. And if you see somebody that's smoking, go up to them, talk to them, tell them about what you're doing, how excited you are about it. Tell your friend how excited you are about it and what it's doing for you. Educate them the smart way. And do not make a scene because you vape. You know what? They don't give two shits that you're vaping.
Okay,
but
hold on.
If you do it smartly and you play yourself the way that it's actually helping you, that it is, you will make huge inroads in this industry. I mean, I got up there. I've never smoked. I was never a smoker. I got into this industry because my grandmother died when I was 16 from smoking cigarettes. And when this thing came to me in 2008, I jumped on board because I believed in it, because I saw what it did for my best friend who smoked for 18 years. I saw it, jumped onto it, and took off with it. So you have to believe in it. You have to be the word of mouth. The other thing that Mike and John both will realize or remember, we had Senator John Eklund at the Ohio Vapor Trade Association first conference, and he talked about being reflexive versus reflective.
Yep.
And that's exactly what John was just talking about.
Now, let me chime in with something. The people that are either watching or going to be listening on the podcast. And Nick Orlando was talking about clouds out in public. Let's steer something really clear. The people that are on that end of the margin or in that venue should be called enthusiasts. Okay? There's a place for who can blow the biggest cloud. There's a place for who's got the biggest mod or the shiniest. There's a place for that. And for people that are, well, there's no place in anything, bullshit. We have cars and automotive enthusiasts that go to the quarter mile and build dragsters that do 300 miles an hour. So all the people, there's no place for that. Go fuck yourself. There is a place for it.
Right? That question, Mike, that question was actually asked to me in a meeting with one of the state reps. He said, why do you guys have to blow those big clouds? And he happened to be a car enthusiast. I said, so let me ask you a question. You like cars, right? Yeah. Well, why do you have to have that big motor in your car? Well, because I like to go fast. I like to make a lot of noise.
There you go.
Well, same thing, but don't do it in the middle of freaking Times Square. Do it in your own setting.
Yep, you pull your dragster out in your quarter-mile car with the Mickey Thompson fats on the ass end, and you put it on Main Street, right. You're going to get busted. Right?
And that's the thing. Exactly. We never should have demonized class. And that was a big 2014, 2015.
We've played the entitled card this entire time. We're not entitled. We're lucky. We are lucky and fortunate to be in this industry, to be able to do what we do, save lives, and actually tell people about a life-saving technology. But no, we take it for granted, and we shit on it, and we throw it out from stages like we're feeding seagulls. No, that's not how this is.
Okay,
we want to save people's lives.
But you're also going far above and beyond anybody that was thinking entitlement when they made horseshit labels, when they made juice that was really should not have been on the market. Oh, everybody loves flavors. I don't give a shit. People love them. But there's a place for them. Okay, but like you said, when you get there, Team Pre-Shit throwing stuff off of the stage into the crowd, well, of course they're going to get the biggest name. Of course they're probably called Candy King. Of course they're probably all of the bullshit crap labels. So early on, guys, let's face it, there was nothing but rampant greed running through this industry. Plain and simple.
Yep.
Absolutely. One thing I want to add, though, is
go to a cannabis convention. Look how that's ran. A cannabis convention. Check that one out.
Super professional. It's crazy.
Yep.
So go to a cigar convention. You know what I mean? That's the industry we should have modeled after. Not, with a different mission, but like the same sort of professionalism. We should have been catering to them. This is boutique. You want to quit smoking? Come in here. We're going to pair this with a scotch. We're going to show you how to pair this with, there could have been so much that we did. And the problem was that there were hobbyists and then there were ex-smokers, because I believe those are two things. You know what I mean? The problem was we catered to the hobbyists. We changed what the culture of vaping was. My very first show was in Philadelphia. It was either 2011 or 2012. I always forget. I know Greg Conley was at it. I didn't see him there. I didn't know who he was, but I know for a fact he was at that one because he's a South Jersey boy. But I went to this Philly show, and it was nothing but I was the youngest one there. Granted, I was like 19, 20, but I was nowadays. You're 19, 20. You're pretty old at a vape convention. Mm-hmm. So I'm there, and
you're a CEO.
You own a business. But the thing is that it was, let's crush the pack, and people clapping for it. The old electronic cigarette forums in 2010, 2011, 2012, it was people posting 382 days off cigarettes, and everyone, congratulations, congratulations, congratulations. And we celebrated quitting. That was what we celebrated. And if new flavors came out, it was still about quitting. If new technology came out, it was to stay quit. You know what I mean? We debridged 306s. We built shitty mesh addies. We sat there with silica. We went through all the wicks. We built our coils. We tried pre-make. We went through it, but it was all because it was fun to not smoke. Yes. That's what it was. It was fun to not smoke. And now it's turned into it's just fun. And that's fine. there is definitely a place for the hobbyists, but why are we catering to them? Why are we catering to them?
See, there's a guy.
Middle-aged woman does not want to walk in and see Candy King. That doesn't appeal to the older smoker that you need to capture. We geared towards a certain demographic. New smokers. What about the old smokers? You know what I mean? What about the people that have 10, 15 years into this, or 20 or 25, and now have one chance to be captured and see their grandchildren grow up? And instead of taking products and saying, here, guys, we have this. And people put those products up, but not enough people promoted them. You know what I mean? And we can do the circular logic. Who's in charge? Is it the manufacturers for making? Is it the distros for picking it up? Is it the shops for picking it up? But we can't blame the consumers. You put it on a shelf, they're going to buy it. You know what I mean? Like, you put it there for them. But the major problem is that there was, and I hate saying this because I started my business with my partner giving me, my now partner, lending me like a small chunk of money to start my business, but the low cost of entry was what it was. You were able to get into this industry with $500 to $1,000 in a kitchen, and as a result, we allowed people with no business acumen to dictate this market, and people price shopped. And we put quality to the side, we put branding to the side, and we went for price and margins. And as a direct result, the shops, not individual, please no shop owners get mad, but the shops as a collective conditioned all of our consumer bases towards a hobbyist culture and not a culture that celebrates smoking cessation. That was where we screwed up. Right. And when we did that, we handed the reins, we handed the image over to the least desirable people to represent us. I'm tattooed. I got, flat brim hats. I talk like shit. I shouldn't be the face of vaping. I should not. You know what I mean? It just shouldn't be that way.
There's a gentleman that's in the chat room, and he made a couple of comments, and I'm going to take a minute and read them. His name, and I've got to scroll back up, J.D. Danbury. JD's first comment, he goes, are they really talking about big clouds? It's 2019. We have a 10-month death sentence. And the next one that he says, okay, so we stopped catering to hobbyists. Industry's still dead in a year. Okay, JD, you might be very well correct in that. And I might actually agree with that. But right now, we're taking a look at the industry as a whole. I'm tired of people segmenting and saying only this portion, and they only talk about one thing, or they only segue and they only talk about Juul, and they only talk about this. Let's take an evening, what we're doing right now, and we're having a wide open discussion about an entire industry, how this industry has made choices and decisions that have put us where we are today. Is it any one person's group or otherwise that has done this to us? No, it's not. It's the entire industry that has said, hi, I'm going to bend over. Please let me have it. And we did. By choice. By choice.
There's been nobody that's been in this industry, very few, that's been in it longer than I have, since August of 2008. Started with Cigalike.
That's OG.
And went all the way through.
I was a consumer, but
and I have seen to where you're talking about and where John was talking about, these trade shows and the industry totally forgot about the smoker. We chased after the next biggest RDA.
Yep.
The next pretty looking mod.
Yep.
The next beautiful RDA. The next set of coils. The next realm of sub-ohming.
The next
we totally forgot about the smoker. And you went from 18 milligram down to 3 milligram was the norm. And I'll tell you what, I thank God for people like Mark Bird, Ronnie Everett, Jonathan May, Demetrius, obviously, first and foremost, Demetrius. But the guys from Vapors Carnival put their money where their mouths were. They started something that catered to the smoker to bring the smokers back to the conventions. And then you've got Demetrius and Phil with their back to the basics training for stores that really refocused the stores on catering to smokers, because that's why we're freaking here. And I sat this past weekend. I've been very fortunate for the last 2 Vapors Carnivals to be what they call a smoker's ambassador. When the smokers come in, they turn in their cigarette packs, they pay $1, they get a bracelet. I walk them to a booth that gives them a free starter kit and a free bottle of liquid. And I watch for those yellow bracelets. I ask them questions. I let them go, let them walk around the convention. Then I follow back around, and I look for those yellow bracelets, ask them how they're doing. Do they have any questions? How's the experience so far? And, breaking the rules, probably. Is that device good for you? If it's not working, I take them to another friend that may be there that has a little bit better device than what they got for free. But our whole goal is to get them off of cigarettes. And we forgot about that. We totally forgot about it because we got caught up as an industry. And the next best thing, instead of the best thing being the cigarette smoker that we forgot about in the first place.
Yep.
So absolutely, John Nathan, you were right.
Yeah, I mean, and one thing I want to say is that, like, Vapors Carnival, like, I really believe that every single person, that's the place to booth. I retired from shows. I mean, I stop at them if they're local. I don't really go to a lot of them. I'll tell you what did it for me is I went to a show. I won't name the one, and I won't even name the time period, but I saw 120 mil bottles of salts in 45 milligram. And the name of it, I won't even say it out loud because it's just not a way that I even talk. Like, it was just that crude. And it wasn't that I got angry. It was just that it hurt. And I couldn't walk around and see it anymore. Vapors Carnival, like, I'm telling you, I don't tune into conventions. I watched every live video. I watched every single post about it. It gets your heart pumping. Like, good things were happening there as a direct result of the vapor industry, and I never want to discount that. Like, when I said that we moved away from that, those guys are moving back towards our core. And you know what? Ultimate respect, and every single one of us needs to be given them accolades for it. And I just want to say one more thing real quick, because I did scroll the chat. Someone had told me XYZ companies filing PMTA, the other one's filing PMTA. All right, I am too. So now add me to the list. It doesn't mean anything until it happens. I'm not saying they're full of shit. I'm just saying there's nothing has happened. It's all PR as of right now. It sounds good. It looks good. I wish them the best of luck. I hope they do it. If they do it, I will eat a crow. I will come up here. I will apologize, and I'll buy their products. And I will commend them. And I'll give $500 for their state group. Like, dead serious. But all I'm saying is that does not make me reverse my position. That's all I wanted to say. I just want to say that. It doesn't make me, oh, okay, so someone says they're going to do it. And one of those people I trust and love, but I don't go off feeling. I have to go off action, and I have to see results. That's how I operate. So someone posting up, I'm going to do this, cool, man, I hope you do. You know what I mean? But it's not enough to make me swift my position. So for the person that posted that, sorry I triggered you, but it's just, these are my beliefs, man.
All
sorry.
Right.
Yeah, Vapors Carnival, absolutely awesome. Back to smokers, it's fantastic. I've said it, and James, I posted in a comment, and you saw it. I said, when we stopped crushing packs at shows, we lost our way. Fact. That was what we were. We were the people that convinced you to crush your pack. Before there was a drill press in the shop, there used to be. there was the crushed packs, and then for anyone who started in the last 3 years, you won't even understand why there was a drill press in a vape shop. But
dude, I still have drill presses in the back of all my shops. I have dust on them.
You couldn't have a shop without a drill press. That airflow.
All right, guys. We are way past. We're actually an hour and 20 minutes already.
Oh,
so
sorry.
And we got extra time.
No, we're doing good. It's just.
Hey, John, do you remember drilling out the pro tanks?
Oh. Yeah, I had my biggest driller. I remember when the first Tobe came out, and I drilled it out, and the guy did it too large. It was an authentic Tobe, and he destroyed it. And I swore I would never modify airflow again. It was the first authentic I bought, and he made it too big, and it was just too airy.
That's great.
All right, gentlemen. John, I seriously appreciate your time.
Thank you, man. I appreciate yours.
And again, for people that are in the chat are going to listen to this on the podcast, this entire show this evening was because I wanted to talk to this guy, because I wanted to understand where he was coming from and why. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody has some factual material. But until you talk to a lot of people, okay. I'm not going to sit and bitch. I watch this guy in a lot of chat rooms and doing a lot of things. I watch people go at it head to head. It's just, I want to find out why. That's what tonight's show was all about. And go ahead.
If I'm wrong, we all win. So hope I'm wrong. I want to be wrong here.
Right?
Yeah, like, please, if I'm wrong,
hey, John, if we all lose, we don't know nicotine.
Exactly. Oof, glad that topic didn't come up.
That'll be a whole other show.
Yeah, I don't want to be on that show. I'm done. I don't even want to deal with that.
All right, gentlemen.
Mike, thank you so much, man.
Hey.
All right, guys. Hey, thank you for letting me hijack the show for a little bit. I love you guys. John Nathan, I love you to death. I'll see you in DC. Mike, I hope I see you in DC too.
Yep. Going to try to be there, dude.
All right.
All right, James. Peace, man.
Have a great night, James. Yeah, it's always good to talk with him. He's one of the guys that not afraid to kind of say what is on his mind, much like you.
Yep.
You know?
Those are the type of people I like to be around. Tell me I'm an asshole. Tell me off. Tell me I'm wrong. Challenge me. Make me think. Make me challenge my beliefs. I want to be argued with. I want to be wrong. If I'm wrong, I get to grow.
Yep.
I don't mind being wrong, period. So if I'm wrong about PMTA, sure. But every last bit of evidence that I've seen over the years since I even learned what that 4-letter acronym was, we're screwed and we need to keep fighting. But
and again, and I've heard other people that are saying some aspects of the vaping market will continue. I don't know what that looks like. I don't really have a clue. You know, but for now, it's just me trying to learn something that I may not have known before. That's why
awesome.
I like doing what I do. So for tonight, I really appreciate you being on the show. Wholeheartedly, seriously.
I appreciate it too.
For everybody else, I know that I will see you again next week on another edition of Vaping in the Mic. I hope that everybody kind of kicks back, relax, just chill out for a little bit and have a great weekend. I'll see everybody again next week.